Wow. Good morning. Good morning. So I come here from an artistic background, both as a performer and as a creative producer, and I would like to talk about nakedness in the context of TED. Next slide. Yes. So TED, which is Technology, Entertainment, and Design. So today I borrowed the little X, which is usually for an independently organized event. I borrowed it in honor of nakedness, of course. I borrowed the X, and I'm going to use it to talk about creation. So all of these fields, technology, entertainment, and design, are in full expansion, if not to say really explosion. The incredible development in the technical and design sectors have created entire new venues of creation. And along with that, that is challenging the knowledge sectors and the responsibility of creators in the entertainment field. Now, I use the word field as opposed to industry. We talk about the entertainment industry. I use the word field intentionally so that we retain something a little more organic in the face of something that take on a scope and ambition that is quite often industrial. So there's always been the mechanism of a creative impulse that goes into design to articulate and produce it, and then it goes into a technological study of feasibility, and then if it survives that, it goes on to budget. But in this context, because it's so grandiose and our shows can take 4 years to produce, keeping it up all that time is sometimes quite a challenge, it's important to keep and maintain the kernel, the real root idea of what it is that we have. And it's actually not an idea, it's a vision. Because if you only have an idea, over time, the idea is less consequent and it will be compromised. So what's important with that root vision is to be able to transmit, not just instruct, but to transmit that vision to all of the people in the community that become a creation. So, oh, there it worked. So the rapport of art and design and technique is ancient. It's been going on since the days when we had ropes and carabiners and all that. But the language has been much more refined, so now it's much more challenging. But now, with all that technology at our disposal, it's not at our disposal. It needs to be part of our inclusion. It can't be some sort of world over there that we don't understand with all those geeky guys. It needs to be included in the middle of the concept. It becomes intrinsic in what's happening and no longer sort of a support structure. So there's so much inventiveness in that sector that, like I say, it has to become into the initial vision. Innovation. Everybody wants to innovate. What's in the middle of the word innovate? Nova. New. Fine. So we want to innovate. Innovate what? If we're going to innovate only as a goal unto itself, it doesn't have inspiration and therefore is no longer artistic, and it can become very easily self-serving. So for me, not talking about everyone else, but innovation has to have a creative impulse to go beyond something, but not just as an accomplishment, but actually to go further in a creative expression. So therefore, again, you have to have a vision and not just an idea, this fusing ideas, flubber. It has to have something much more consequent, in my opinion. So then that's why I say the creativity must drive the innovation. There are many contemporary creative and design groups like Industrial Light and Magic, Cirque du Soleil, the Franco-Dagon Entertainment Group, and hundreds of them. And they often create sort of a tribe of people that tend to work together. You see in the credits, you'll see many of the same people, and there's a good reason for that. It's important to have a certain kind of complicity in these designs, in these designers, to the point that in the Cirque du Soleil and in Dragon, only 2 companies in the entertainment field, we call our designers concepteurs, which is not an English word. It's a word we borrowed from French, concepteur. But it does take on a significance in the fact that the design that you give can be accepted or denied or modified, but if it's a concept, you have an engagement to it right the way through the creation. So just to situate us in a very short video, we're going to load a video. Thank you.
This is a technologic extravagance and a human extravagance, but it's really kind of over the top, but with emotion. It's about life, love, death, birth. It's about all of this. But the word, it's a kind of wow.
It's a big thing, you know. It's a very hostile. This is a very hostile environment, you know. Up in the air, or underwater, it's very hostile. So we need to have all the people everywhere to take care of the security of everybody.
The acrobats, they are at such a level of elitism in their performance art that it becomes a question of life or death if they're not paying attention.
They repeat and they repeat and they repeat exercises so that it's not just the performers, it's also all of the technical crew who are having to learn to work with what the performers are doing. And the other really big thing is that we drill into the performers is that if you feel unsafe or you're not sure about something, you don't do it. You stop.
What is beautiful in doing a show like this, it's a human adventure. And if we work well together, the show will tell this to the audience. These people are feeling good together. It's a kind of sub-language that exists in any human collective adventure or journey.
Okay, so I wanted to just situate us somewhat because I talk about these large technological environments and these challenges, and actually those kinds of shows don't tour by virtue. They sit there and it takes 4 years of pre-production. It's an amazing, as Franco Dragan, who is a very substantial creator in the entertainment field, Belgian. Also, I'm not here to do publicity for Franco. He doesn't need it, number one, but it's images that I have the right to use and something that I can use to illustrate my point. So such an environment can be downright hostile, as Michel Cret says, hostile. You've seen that. So coming from a dance studio or a circus in Tanzania or somewhere and winding up in an environment like that, it's quite a stretch and it takes a great deal of time. So all that preparation, all the storyboarding, all that stuff, all that preparation has to come down to one spontaneous point in creation, which is nakedness. All that comes down to a point that needs to remain spontaneous and vital. Vivant. So it's a leap of faith, but it's a knowledgeable one. We can't just, oh, well, I'll just jump off of that. There's an entire process of human development to allow that to happen. It doesn't just happen by training. Everyone has to be illuminated. They can't just fling themselves into that environment. It's a responsibility that we have developing it, and it's also a responsibility that they have individually. There's no way to direct a group of a mass like that. So the danger, we're talking about danger. Franco talks about danger in a creative process. Danger doesn't mean that someone's going to get hurt. It means that you're in a precarious situation so that what you actually put out on the stage is something visceral, very important. So it has to be some sort of creative combustion, these elements that get hit together so it becomes a creative combustion. If it's only a structured rollout of everything that we've planned, then it becomes an accomplishment and not innovative. So I would like to go further. This is a very hostile environment. Many of the material that we would develop for months has to go off to the side. So you develop, and then it doesn't make it to the show. And it's really important that we use all this information to create what it is that we're doing. It's part of our vocabulary. And there we go. All these ideas, fantastic, but they didn't make it into the show. These are the outtakes. I could do many shows with the B-roll, yes? So don't fall in love with your work. I will again refer to Franco. Don't fall in love with your work. That doesn't mean that you step back and that you don't care. That doesn't mean that you don't have passion. But you cannot get attached to your personal expression, the thing that your brainchild, the thing you've worked on for so many years. Because by the time you come into the environment where that all comes together, if you're stuck on your storyboard, because I've stayed so many nights doing it, you won't be able to recognize what's happening and unfolding the creative combustion in front of you. I call that the inspirational genesis. Love PowerPoint. So that's easier for some of us to actually take a draft or an image and put it off to the side. But the acquisition of skill, all these things that we develop for months, the blood, sweat, and tears, and what people come into, it can be really difficult when you've worked on something for 7 or 8 months, not to mention the expense and the expertise and the investment to all of a sudden have to go off to the side. Sometimes it's really difficult just to turn your head forward and go forward and realize that you have to keep that in front of you. But it's not lost if everything that you do, as we in our lives, everything we learn becomes part of who we are, and as an artist, it becomes part of your personal patrimony. So I'd like to show you another video really quickly, which is going to show you a bit of an idea about what we do to people to bring them into this idea. This was happening in Lint, which is actually in the AlphaCam studios, now been changed, very nearby here. So we took about 100 people and we beat the shit out of them for about a year. Video. It's a video. It's the second video. Technology, entertainment, design, preparation. Yeah. Okay. So why I wanted to show that is to situate. I'm actually kind of somewhere else in my PowerPoint presentation, but that's all right. So, nakedness. All those people come from FMX motorcycle riders. They come from Atlanta, Georgia, in a trailer park, and they're going to come and go in Macau and study. Everything that people, Brazilian cliff divers, all these people come from everywhere else, and they have to get naked. I don't mean the Speedo. I mean, they have to take all of their technique, everything they've developed, everything they are, and strip it down to something that we can actually do and use it as a creative vocabulary. That kind of nakedness is incredibly significant. Someone who's been an Olympic gymnast, all of a sudden we're asking them to be vulnerable in a theatrical workshop. So that encouraging that nakedness as a state that we should relish in and not some sort of vulnerability that we have to protect ourselves from, no matter how technically it is, no matter how sophisticated, no matter how demanding, no matter how dangerous it is, you have to be able to remain available to that. So I'm trying to work on this here. There we go. So there's a huge human machine that's involved in. All that stuff that you saw, which I won't go into great detail, has to bring people from all of these different things to be able to collaborate together as a community or a hive, really, much more than a cast of characters. But we have to transmit so much technical information to them that it's a human adventure, no matter how you take it. You can't just give people large lists of instructions and standard operating procedures and figure that they'll read it and it's not even in their language or even in the frame of reference. There's a huge amount of time and human investment to make those kinds of things happen. It starts with people. So it winds up, you'll have a group like that, this diversity, the landscape that I was talking about. So to coordinate that is really quite something. It all comes as different kinds of things. We can have an individual, an artist, a spectator, but the dimension it transfers then on over to designment to teams, really, casts and populations. It takes a lot of people to make all this happen. Move. There we go. Naked. Yes, please. Absolutely. Up from that initial intent, that kernel, that grain, all the way down to the moment when we bring it in front of an audience. That vulnerability is not a weak spot. That lack of armor, in spite of all of the preparation and all those things, that lack of armor is a gift to allow us to put a heartbeat into something so that whatever we do will be significant only because it is significant to us, and therefore something vital. Thank you. Next.